I've worked the night shift at St. Augustine Memorial for almost 6 years. Long enough to know every flicker in the fluorescent lights, every hiss of the oxygen valves, every strange noise old buildings make when the city outside finally goes quiet. Hospitals breathe at night. That's what I tell the new nurses when they get spooked. But that night, the hospital wasn't breathing. It was listening. Room 417 had been closed for renovations after a small electrical fire. No patient, no equipment, no bed, just stripped tile floors and plastic sheets hanging from the ceiling like pale, unmoving curtains. So when the cardiac monitor at the nurse's station beeped, sharp, rapid, panicked, I looked up out of instinct. A green waveform jittered violently across the screen. Heart rate, 189. Oxygen saturation, 82%. Then a flatline. The long, unbroken tone pierced the quiet hall. I stared at the screen. There was no device connected to that room. Did maintenance reconnect something? I asked under my breath. Only 2 of us were on that wing. Me and Carlos, a travel nurse who'd started 3 weeks earlier. Good guy, quiet, didn't talk much about himself. He leaned back in his chair, headphones dangling around his neck. What? I turned the monitor toward him. He frowned. 417's empty. I know. The flat line continued for a full 10 seconds. Then the monitor reset itself. The screen went black. Probably a glitch, Carlos said. That's the thing about working in hospitals. You normalize everything. Machines fail. Systems freeze. Electronics spark. You don't assume the impossible. You assume bad wiring. Still, I grabbed the master key. I'm just going to check. Carlos sighed but followed me down the hall. The corridor lights were dimmed for night hours. Motion sensors hummed faintly overhead. Our footsteps echoed too loudly, like the building was hollow. Room 417 sat at the very end of the hall. The door was slightly open. I stopped walking. I thought maintenance locked it, I whispered. Carlos shrugged. Maybe they forgot. He nudged the door open. The smell hit first. Not rot, not chemicals. Cold, like stepping into a freezer. The air inside felt heavier than the hallway, thicker, harder to breathe. The plastic sheets hanging from the ceiling rustled even though there was no vent blowing. The room was empty. No bed, no machines, no monitor, nothing. But on the far wall, something flickered. A small portable cardiac monitor sat on the floor, plugged in. The screen showed a single flat green line. I felt my stomach drop. That wasn't here before, I said. Carlos stepped closer. Maybe maintenance. The line jumped. A heartbeat, then another. Beep, beep, beep. Heart rate climbing. 60, 75, 103. No leads were attached. No patient. The monitor trembled slightly against the tile, as if something invisible lay on the ground in front of it. Then the oxygen alarm started screaming. Carlos backed away. Okay, that's not funny. I'm not. The plastic sheets shifted. All at once, as if someone had just walked through them. I heard breathing, ragged, wet, desperate, right beside me, but there was no one there. The heart rate spiked. 160, 178, 201, then a whisper. Don't let them turn off the lights. It wasn't Carlos. It wasn't me. It was behind us. We spun around. Nothing. But the room felt smaller. The air tighter. The monitor screen changed. The green waveform was gone. Now it showed a date. October 12th, 1998. Carlos frowned. What's that? I swallowed. That was the date the electrical fire happened. 1 patient had died. Official cause: cardiac arrest during evacuation. Room 417. The lights above us flickered once, then shut off. Total darkness. The only glow came from the monitor on the floor. Beep, 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 but slower now. Weak. Couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight. The breathing sound returned. Not beside me this time. In front of us. On the floor. Like someone was lying there. Dying. Turn the lights back on, Carlos shouted. The hallway lights outside flickered but didn't respond. The monitor suddenly displayed something else. Camera footage. Black and white. A hospital room from 1998. Room 417. A man in a hospital gown lay in the bed, oxygen mask strapped to his face. Smoke seeped under the door. Nurses rushed in and out. One nurse unplugged the cardiac monitor. The screen went dark. The patient's eyes widened. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. The footage froze on his face, and slowly, his eyes turned toward us, toward the camera, toward the present. The monitor on the floor cracked. The screen fractured from the inside. Carlos grabbed my arm. "We need to leave," but my feet wouldn't move. The whisper returned. "Closer. You left me." The temperature dropped sharply. My breath fogged. The plastic sheets wrapped around something invisible. A body shape, curled, trembling. The heart rate on the broken screen began again. 30, 20, 10, flatline, and then silence. The lights snapped back on. The room was empty again. No monitor, no plastic movement, no cold air, just tile and dust. Carlos and I stood frozen. Neither of us spoke for a full minute. Finally, he said, "We didn't see that." I nodded. "Yeah." We walked back to the nurse's station. The system log on the computer blinked. New entry. Room 417, patient transfer complete. Time of discharge, 3:57 a.m. Discharged to morgue. No patient name listed. Just one line beneath it. Bed needed for new admission. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I don't know why I answered. The voice on the other end was raspy, weak, grateful. "Thank you for not turning off the lights." The call ended. The number doesn't exist when I try to call it back. The next morning, administration announced renovations in 417 were canceled. The room is operational again. We admitted a patient there yesterday. Cardiac issues, stable condition. But every night at 3:53 a.m., the heart monitor at the nurse's station glitches. Just for a second. And the waveform looks like two heartbeats overlapping. Like someone is still lying on that floor, waiting. It was 3:53 a.m. when the monitor showed two heartbeats again. One steady, one failing. I was alone this time. Carlos had transferred to another hospital 2 weeks after what happened in 417. He never said it was because of that night. But he stopped making eye contact after. Stopped joking. Stopped staying past exactly 7 a.m. On his last shift, he told me something I didn't understand until later. "Some patients don't want to be saved," he said quietly. "They just don't want to be forgotten." I didn't ask what he meant. I wish I had. The new patient in 417 was a middle-aged man named Daniel Reeves. Heart complications. Arrived stable. No signs of cognitive impairment. Polite, soft-spoken. But he refused to let us turn off the lights. Even during sleep. Even during imaging. "Please," he'd say, "just leave one on." The first night, I humored him. Trauma patients sometimes have irrational fears. The second night, I asked why. He hesitated, then said, "When it's dark, I can hear him breathing." My throat tightened. "Who?" I asked carefully. "The other one." He wouldn't elaborate. At 3:53 a.m., the central monitor glitched. Room 417. Two waveforms. Daniel's heart rate, 72. Unknown signal, 39, 41, 38. Weak, struggling. I stood up slowly. "No," I whispered to myself. The unknown waveform wasn't connected to any device, just like before. But this time it wasn't flatlining. It was syncing. Every time Daniel inhaled, the second waveform twitched. Half a second behind. Like an echo. I grabbed the tablet and pulled up the in-room camera feed. Daniel was asleep. The lights were on, but the footage looked wrong. There was a shape on the floor beside his bed. Not solid, not shadow, just distortion, like heat rising off pavement. It expanded and contracted slowly, breathing. Half a second after Daniel, I felt that cold again. Not in the hallway, inside my chest. I rushed down the corridor. The door to 417 was closed. The lights underneath flickered. Pushed it open. Daniel's eyes snapped open instantly. "Don't," he whispered. The air felt thick again, that freezer-cold pressure. "I didn't turn them off," I said quickly. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring at the floor. The distortion was clearer in person. The tile near the bed shimmered like it was underwater. And then, a handprint pressed up from beneath the floor, not above it, from inside it, as if someone was trapped under the tile. Daniel's monitor spiked. The second waveform spiked with it, perfectly synced. The handprint moved, dragging, reaching toward the bed. Daniel started crying. "I told them not to unplug it," he said. My blood ran cold. "What?" "They said they had to evacuate. Said they'd come back for me. But they never did. That wasn't Daniel's chart. That wasn't his history. That wasn't his life." His voice changed. Older, weaker, smoky. The lights overhead dimmed slightly. Not off, just enough to stretch the shadows. The distortion on the floor rose. It wasn't flat anymore. It was forming a shape. A body outline, curled, trembling, just like before. Daniel grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "He doesn't want me here," he whispered. "There's only room for one." The second heartbeat began overtaking the first. The monitor numbers flickered. Daniel, 68. Unknown, 72. Daniel, 60. Unknown, 75. Like something was replacing him. The distortion climbed the side of the bed. Slow, deliberate, as if gravity didn't apply to it. The oxygen line rattled. The overhead lights flickered violently now. I remembered the whisper from weeks ago. "Don't let them turn off the lights." I lunged for the wall switch and flipped every panel on. Full brightness flooded the room. The distortion recoiled violently. The second waveform dropped. 39, 28, 12, but it didn't flatline. It stabilized. At 41, Daniel's heart steadied at 70. The handprint on the floor slowly faded. The air warmed. Daniel collapsed back onto the pillow, gasping. "It's still here," he said weakly. "It's just waiting." After that night, I requested access to old hospital archives. The fire in 1998 wasn't electrical. That was the public report. The sealed internal report said something different. Smoke detectors malfunctioned. Power fluctuations occurred in only one room, for 17. The cardiac monitor was unplugged prematurely during evacuation confusion. The patient died in darkness. And according to one nurse's statement, the man had begged them not to turn off the lights. He was afraid of the dark. Daniel improved physically over the next few days, but the second heartbeat never disappeared. Every night at 3:53 a.m., it returned, stronger, closer to his rhythm. Yesterday, I checked the monitor. Room 417 displayed only one waveform. Strong, stable. Heart rate, 76. Daniel was asleep, but the camera showed something else. He wasn't alone in the bed. The sheets dipped on the other side, like someone was lying next to him, breathing, perfectly in sync. This morning, Daniel was discharged. Healthy, no complications. Room 417 is empty again. But tonight, at 3:53 a.m., the central monitor didn't glitch. It updated. Room 417 occupied. Heart rate, 41. There is no patient assigned. No admission logged. No bed request filed. Just one steady patient heartbeat. Waiting. And I swear, when the lights flicker, it speeds up, like it knows I'm watching. Subscribe for more chilling tales.